don't be this guy. This guy's name is Jeffrey Santillan. He is the CEO of Safeguard Metals, who just got charged by the SEC for a multi-million-dollar fraudulent scheme with hundreds of investors who are at or near retirement age. So what was the fraud? Well, his company was selling numismatics or collector's coins to investors through misleading and fraudulent practices. And so I'm going to explain to you here why those charges are well deserved and why this practice is much more widespread than you might imagine, which is why you should stay away from collector's coins. Ready? Let's dive in. All right, story time. Probably about 5, maybe 6 years ago, I went to go buy gold for the very first time. I'd never bought gold before, and so I just Googled where the closest gold dealer was to me at the time, walked in the door and said, hey, I'd like to buy a couple ounces of American Eagles. Now, they welcomed me in. They were very friendly. They had me sit down in a room, and then they called in the big guy, the CEO, the guy who owned the company, to come in and sit down with me and give me his little sales pitch, which was really a scare pitch. He said, look, I'll sell you these American Eagles, but guess what? They're going to get taken away from you. He said, take a look at this picture. This is of Executive Order 6102, and this is when FDR made it illegal for Americans to own gold. He confiscated all the gold from American citizens, transferred it all to the Federal Reserve. That boosted their gold holdings and allowed them to inflate the currency, printed a lot more dollars, and still hold to their gold reserves ratio. This guy explained to me that when they did the gold confiscation, they bought the gold for the stated price that was on the coin, and subsequent to that, raised the gold price. And he said, mark my words, this is going to happen again. All of the investors out there who have gold bars and gold coins sitting at home, the American government is going to come knocking door by door, and they're going to take your gold from you. And by law, they'll have to pay you for it. They're going to be required to pay you for it. But they're only required to pay you for the amount that's printed or stamped into the coin, which on an American Eagle, $50. Doesn't matter that the market price at the time was $1,500 or right now it's $1,800 or whatever the market price is. The stated value is $50. Subsequent to that, the federal government will maybe be able to repeg to gold. They'll revalue it higher. They'll do whatever they want with it. They'll sell it and get more money. Who knows? But they're only required to give you the $50, even though you spent a lot more than that on the purchase. And he said, but don't worry, I've got a solution for you here. And he pulled out numismatic coins. Collector's coins. He said these coins, by law, were excluded because they're collector's items. So these are not going to be confiscated when the American government at some point inevitably comes for your gold. So because of that, it's a safer way to invest your money in gold. And on top of that, he showed me on average the amount that collector's coins have appreciated in value and how they've actually beat the price of gold over the long term. Now, luckily, I had recently read a report, a PDF that Peter Schiff created, and he's got it on his website. I'll link it in the description below if you want to get, I think you have to give him your email or something like that to be able to download the PDF, but it goes through a bunch of gold scams and gold cons, including the confiscation con. And so luckily I didn't fall for it. I got my American Eagles, I walked out, and I never went back. And in a moment, I will explain all of the lies there. But a more extreme version of this practice was being used by Safeguard Metals, who recently got charged by the SEC for fraud. So first of all, they weren't just selling the coins. The first thing that they did was they were transferring people's retirement accounts to a self-directed IRA and then buying those collector's coins underneath the banner of the IRA. Second, apparently the company was advertising itself as a massive full-service investment firm with offices in London, New York City, Beverly Hills, with $11 billion in assets, when in reality they were in a small office in Woodland Hills, California. Further, they used scare tactics similar to the Executive Order 6102 scare tactic that I experienced. These ones may be a little bit more extreme, with talking about unpublicized new laws where retirement accounts would be frozen. Now, they might have not been aware, but they probably were, that it's actually against the law to use deceptive conduct and material misrepresentations in the purchase or sale of securities. Now, you might think, hey, well, at the end of the day, at least the investors actually got the coins. It wasn't just a Ponzi scheme. They were actually investing in some real metal. Well, partly. Because remember, this wasn't gold bullion, this wasn't American Eagles, these were collector's coins. And collector's coins regularly have markups of 50% or more, considering the amount of silver or gold that is actually in the coin. So you're paying a price for a 1 ounce coin, or however big the coin is, when most of the metal in that coin is other metal. And you're paying a price for it that's the same or a little bit more sometimes than you would for a coin that's pure gold or pure silver. This gave Safeguard Metals the ability to rack up about 64% in markups on average on its sale of silver coins instead of the 4% to 33% that investors thought they were getting. So investors thought they were getting a lot more precious metal for the price that they were paying, when in fact most of that was just the commissions for the company. So I've said it once, I'll say it a million times more, especially as gold and silver enter into a new bull market and start to rally hard from here on forward, which I think they are going to do. More and more people are going to get suckered in to the collector's coin scam. Unless you are a professional, stay away. You don't know what you're looking for. You don't know what you're looking at. You don't have the ability to test the metal to make sure what the seller is saying is actually in the coin is really there. You don't have any experience or knowledge on whether that coin is rare or not. And again, unless you're a professional coin collector, it's just not worth the risk or the money. Now, at this point, you're probably asking, hey, wait a second, what about Executive Order 6102? What if the feds do come knocking at my door and ask to take my gold from me? Well, I'm glad you asked. After Executive Order 6102 was put in place, guess how many doors the American government knocked on to take gold? 0. It was just taken from the banks, from where the gold was held in the banks. And so don't keep your gold in the banks. Don't keep it in a safety deposit box, because right now, given the rules, number one, most banks don't allow it, and number two, they can take it if they need to. But even back then, when Americans had way more gold than they have today, it still wasn't profitable for the government to go knocking on doors looking for gold. And given the amount of Americans today who hold any gold whatsoever, it's definitely not going to happen. Did it become illegal to own it? Yes. If that ever becomes the case, people will have to make their own decisions about how to deal with that. Are you going to get a knock on the door? Most likely not. Besides, by the time that happens, most likely, you'll have lost all of your gold in a boating accident. Trust me, I know how easy that is to happen. I just lost all of mine. It's all gone. If you're interested in getting into gold and silver for the first time and you don't know where to start, I've got all of my recommended resources and services with affiliate links in the description below. Finally, I will be speaking at an event in Dallas on March 5th. I would love to see you there. If you'd like to join, sign up link is in the description below. As always, really appreciate you guys. Thanks so much for watching. Have a great day.